What's up, guys? Welcome to this very first video of this channel. I am super excited and I'm very glad to have here today Peter Jones as our first guest. Peter has so many years of experience as a cybersecurity and a digital forensics professional. If you want to understand how to become more successful in this career or to start this new path, watch this conversation. It will be worth it. And if you like it, please smash the like button. But don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything in the future. Let's go!
So my name is Peter Jones. By the time this goes out, I am a Chief Information Security Officer. I've moved roles since 2020. I am the chair of the Southwest Chartered Institute of Information Security Professionals branch. I'm also the co-founder of what they call the Southwest Cybersecurity Cluster. Been working in this industry for over a decade. I've been working in tech. I've been working in tech since I was about 10 years old, believe it or not.
What is your point of view, Peter, when you're talking about the evolution of a digital forensic professional? Have you seen major changes regarding his expectations, different types of trainings, skills that this type of professional needs to have now, considering this new world?
Yeah, it's very much like law enforcement. If the robbers get a fast car, you've got to get a fast car. And they get even faster car, then you've got to get even faster car. It was very strange because it wasn't that long, I say it wasn't that long ago, about 20 years ago. Those people who were getting into law enforcement, high-tech crime units, were because they were maybe close to retirement. Mm-hmm. They had a little bit of skill because they could turn the PC on. And it was all very dead box. Rip out a disk, make a copy of disk, look for data, look for artifacts. Now, I mean, I came into the industry by accident. I fell into it. I was working in mobile phones or cell phones, in the US, if you like, for about 10 years, if you like. And at the time, I got a conversation saying about, well, how do we examine these things? Mm-hmm. You know, how do we get the SMS messages off them? You know, how do we get the contacts off them? Well, at the time when I joined the forensic industry, at best we had 200 contacts. We might have had 100 text messages. We might have had the odd blocky message that looked like a picture, possibly, maybe, if we turned the phone around. And then I look back with that with laughter now, because we're now at a point where I've got a phone here that's arguably faster than this tablet I'm using right now. And it was always said to me, oh yeah, you start off with mobile phones, you start off with cell phones, and then you'll start examining Windows and Macs. And I said, no, I won't. What do you mean? You know, that's the stepping stone. No, it's not. Mobile phones will take over. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, 2020, even in this current situation, you know, we're dependent on wireless devices. We're dependent on tablets, phones, smart watches, Amazon Echoes. I'm careful what I say before she kicks in. You know, and then all of a sudden, who are the people doing the examining? Well, the mobile examiner, the one who's had to adapt, because it's a little bit cynical of me, but how the industry's changed is those who had to sit down, still doing dead box, mm-hmm. Still got, they're only, again, I'm being very, very cynical, but Windows, Mac, Linux, done. Mobiles, I've got to worry about Android, Windows, and over the years I've had Palm, Symbian, Apple, proprietary, I've had Windows embedded, and then once you bring IoT into it, it blows your mind. You've got all this interconnectivity. And actually, those who've stuck to their guns with the mobile side of things are probably better placed than some of the old digital forensic guys. And then really, to sort of box off the question, where we're really at is that incident response element. You know, the term is now DFIR. You know, mm-hmm. When we speak to recruiters, we speak to organizations, it's like, yeah, but how much incident response have you done? Well, digital forensics has always been incident response. It just depends on what you count incident response as. we find, we find the proverbial ones and zero dead bodies in machines. We've been doing it for a long, long time. And it was actually quite interesting. In 2012, 2013, I had a discussion with somebody who's a chief editor of a magazine over here called Digital Forensic Magazine. And I sort of said, we'll talk about the two worlds of forensics and information security. Because digital forensics is a bit of an ugly twin. We've got wet forensics, we've got traditional forensics, and then we've got digital. Where's digital live? Well, 2013, the chap I was speaking to says, information security, forensics need to come one. I went, right, I'll get on that bandwagon. And even today, they're still not as one as I would like, but actually it's so important to find those dead bodies, find those skeletons in the closet, because forensics gives you so much more information than your straight out of the box SOC, your scene, and all that sort of stuff. So even as a CISO, I'm madly passionate about the DFIR world, because they're the guys who are doing the digging. They have the shovels, unlike the pen testers who tend to have the sexier kick of the cybersecurity market, where everyone thinks, "Ooh, pen testing, shiny." Actually, DFIR, that's shiny. You have to do longer hours, but it is possibly the most rewarding.
We are still trying to figure it out exactly what is needed for that specific professional. I'm not sure about you, what you feel about that.
It's actually something I'm really passionate about and something I'm starting to get on board with. Very much this concept of practitioner, senior practitioner, lead practitioner. Not, I do phones, I do IoT, I do computers. That's old skill. And actually, the great thing about forensics, you don't have to be a computer person. You don't have to be. There was a study done over here, recently now, 2019, commissioned by one of the banks. Well, actually said, for example, ladies who were coming back from maternity leave had a better analytical mind than a man who's been doing forensics for years. Actually, when you take it down the bare bones, you're not examining a computer, you're examining data, you're examining stuff. So how is that any different from examining a stockroom spreadsheet versus a Windows registry? Actually, if you've got that skill, we need to be able to recognize that skill, and you'll have a different way of solving a problem. You'll have a different way of understanding. So let's say you've been airdropped into a situation and you've got to do an investigation. Those who are not from a computing background, who have an analytical background, potentially could get to resolving the issue quicker than your straight out of the box practitioners. So there's this idea of having a practitioner, senior, and lead. It's someone who can develop those skills, those soft skills that aren't techie, that aren't about the binary, they aren't about the, I know Windows 2012 does something that Windows 2019 doesn't do. Or I know how when we're stripping out a kernel. Well, that's great. You make an excellent technician. Good for you for being able to get that data out. Whilst you've got a wonderful place in this, the best investigator we might have the most analytical mind may not come from this background. There is some police forces in the UK who have very big, like a mix of civilians and police officers working on the same cases because of that two completely different points of view. And I think that's great. So as an industry, we've got to be doing better at recognizing those who aren't essentially from that typical geek and nerd branch, if you like. And those are the people we need to find and bring into this industry, because they'll make excellent SOC analysts, practitioners, and so forth.
And especially on the SOC world, one thing that I'm seeing a lot, Peter, is to have these people with this analytical mind, but with some innovation in their veins. Why I'm saying that? We know that right now, data is like exploding the amount of data that we are working with. For one SOC analyst to be working the way they work in the past, it doesn't make any sense. It's like you are in this football field. We have like a SOC team with 10 analysts, and they need to identify manually every single person on that soccer field, for example. And these new skills, right? We need to have someone, for example, thinking about how we can develop some machine learning to identify faster that or mitigate that alerts, right? How to react to a specific alert that is popping every single time on the SOC environment. Otherwise, it's going to be unmanageable to have the same structure that we are working with, the same roles, the same type of daily tasks, without thinking about, okay, how can I do better? How can I improve my role, or how can I improve my environment, thinking outside of the box, right? Those are the skills that, unfortunately, in the past, or it didn't make sense at that time, let's put like this, to look for someone with that skills. But I think now this is something mandatory for this type of roles. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I used to say to my students, I said, digital forensics is the life in front of progress bars. Even with faster machines still means more data still means progress bars.
Exactly.
And it was very much a joke at the time. But when you talk about what was then and what is now, the way I look at it, and possibly maybe this is now from my CISO hat perspective, says, okay, with all this type of data that we're seeing, are we moving away from just a purely reactive world? Because digital forensics is a reactive industry.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be proactive. Otherwise, we're entering Minority Report sort of style. We're working, we're not that point yet. But what we've got to do is there's a certain amount of prediction, being able to recognize actually the exploit, the activity you're seeing. Is this scope over here, or is that scope over there?
Reactive faster.
I mean, I'm starting to see some fantastic tools which are promising, some cognitive functions. You've got a human being at one end, but you've got AI on the other. But what I want to be seeing is actually there's a certain amount of thinking that's already happened before it's got to you, a certain amount of analytics that's pointing in the right direction. And actually that's where forensics was going for a long time. It was brilliant. We started seeing forensic tools run plugins, run scripts, run engines for us, actually saying, out of these 1 million emails, here's the 280 that you need to read. All right, okay. But actually, when you flip on the other side, a big part of my career was around decent imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, whilst these tools are essentially commercial, they got fantastic at analyzing skin tone, analyzing the type of pictures. Well, actually, when you use all that technology is now being used in your modern day EDR solution, MNDR solution, being used in your SOCs. So actually, if you remember, that's all mentality. It starts in the military, ends up in law enforcement, ends up in the public eye. And I think that's the sort of crossover where we're getting, where some of the modern tools are picking up on that and getting that technology in place. I think for me, it's still a little bit of a shame of, here we go, we've got this shiny magpie tool that does all this investigation for you, but it's only based on the information that we're getting from all our other customers. We're not getting that information from this massive pot of knowledge actually going, like we have something called the CISP in the UK, CISP, not qualification, this is a group. And if an exploit's happening, if we're seeing an attack happening, we share it. We share the indicators of compromise. We share hashes. We share information that was seen, so everybody else can get on top of it very, very quickly.
Amazing.
Why aren't we sharing this? Why aren't the corporate people finding a way of sharing this? Why aren't we using open source? And that will help the DFIR guys, guys and girls, bringing it back full circle. The ones who are trying to do an investigation, trying to do the investigation well, they're trying to get the answer maybe in 5 to 10 days, as opposed to waiting 30 days. And that poor person, that poor business who have had a breach or potential breach, or having to sit there sweating for 20 days, 30 days, because the DFIR guys are just one hand behind the back, they're running what tools they've got available to them. The customer might have, the reason they've got a breach is because they're not using adequate tools in the first place. And that's, I suppose, that's the fight that the DFIR guys have. And I think it's like red teaming. Red teaming's a great exercise, and I promote red teaming. Great, great. But there's a proactive way of testing your security. But when you're DFIR, I don't even know if DFIR is a colour. I don't even think we do have a colour. We're grey. Let's just say we're grey teaming. We're doing our best with what we got. And if we've got a small spoon to dig out a massive tunnel to get the information, it might take 30 days. And I think that's where the profession is behind. It's behind the curve, not because the wrong people are there. It's just the way certain things have gone faster than the forensics industry can catch up and keep up. And it's a weird one. It's a weird one. And I don't know if that's because it's not sat properly between traditional forensics and information security, which is, I think maybe that's the thing that we're going to see a lot more of.
For sure, this is not a matter to have the right or the wrong team, right? Pretty much the people that we have in the team, well selected, a very great group. But even though I see some lack of support from the executives.
I suppose it's the old security cliche, isn't it? It's been going on for years, this. When I just talk to exec teams, and when I talk on board panels, I turn around and say it's the head above the parapet. Okay, it's like a Monty Python sketch, right? You might stick your head above the parapet with all the armor on, but the bow and arrow still gets you in the eye. Okay, so it doesn't matter what we do, but at least by putting the head above the parapet, we can see what's going on. I'd rather put my head above the parapet with proactive measures, a management system with technical toolings, with technical controls, and actually go, oh my God, it's all kicking off. But actually, we're all right. As opposed to worrying about getting the DFIR guys in. If my DFIR guys are half sock and they've got other skills that are helping me, what's it again, blue team and green team and purple team and all the other colours of the rainbow. I'm very much of that hybrid mentality. And I think if the troops, if you like, if the frontlining people are doing their job properly and feeding that through, if it means you're giving the board the information they need and their support is allowing you to do the stuff you're doing with the troops, sometimes that's good enough. And I think sometimes you've got to be, well, that's better than nothing. I had a discussion with a CEO not so long ago. I said, can you tell me what you think I do? And he's like, well, you keep it safe. Good. Right. Okay. What else? That's all I need to know. And he's the one signing the checks.
That's good.
So I'm like, from that point of view, am I dissatisfied that he didn't really know? Am I satisfied he's still signing the checks? And when I go in a little bit more capping and saying, I need to do a little bit more work on my security stack, can I have another 10? He might go, why? And then I'll explain it to him in very, very straightforward English. Because at this point, he's probably, I'm sort of assuming, but the conversation would have probably gone, well, we've been all right so far, so why do you want another 10 grand? Well, the head's above the parapet because I could go, here's all the 1,000 vulnerabilities we've blocked on our firewall. Here's all the USB devices the buggers have been trying to plug into my network, so forth, so forth, so forth. So actually, when he turns around and goes, so humans are still doing stuff. Yes, humans are still doing stuff, and technology's changed. Yeah, I need another 10 grand because humans aren't changing, but the exploits are and the vulnerabilities are, and actually, because I am not blinkered and because I can see what the world is doing, that's why I need another 10. And I think that's the important. I think it's that engagement piece. It's that commitment piece. I'm very much an advocate of frameworks, standards. I'm an ISO auditor, and I not audit to tick box. I audit because I think it's a worthwhile thing if the theory is done correctly. And if the theory is done correctly and applied correctly, in this modern world, actually, you get far more than the head above the parapet. You're getting everybody to look at the parapet from all the pivots and all the turrets in the organization.
One thing that I've seen, I was talking to a CEO a couple of weeks ago, and actually he was struggling to understand exactly the role of that whole security structure that they had in that company. And the only way to explain to him, right, is what the security team is doing that can reflect on increasing the revenue and decreasing their costs. This was the only way that we can continue the conversation, because this is the thing that matters to them. And I find it actually fantastic, because it is not that common to see the executive teams, right, the board, asking the CISOs to explain why the security team can increase their revenue or decrease their costs. So they are inviting us, right, the security team, to speak their language. And I think this way can create a huge synergy between security and the other teams, right? So I found it fantastic to be able to start discussing these things, rather than only discuss, okay, have you been attacked? Have we suffered any breach? Because at the end, we know that the CISOs has the responsibility to avoid that, right? Ultimately, they are responsible for that. And the CISOs are afraid to lose their jobs because of one attack, right? So, oh my God, we have been attacked. We suffered a breach. I'm gonna lose my job. Do you agree with that, Peter?
Yes, certainly. And I don't know if my attitude is a bit wrong, but I've met plenty of CISOs who were there through legacy.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be the head of IT and they needed an information security officer, so they've adopted that title too. Whilst there's a lot to be said for CISOs who are very good at managing and being very good at the top, I think the issue that is going to take a long time to, filter out is technical people being in CISOs. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big issue, again, the issue is not the right word. The legacy problem is information security equals IT. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you remember the three pillars, people need process to use tech. We have technical controls to control the process because of the people. Mm-hmm. It's not always about the CIA, because if we get those three things right, those things will work upwards to the CIA.
So true.
And these are the things that security professionals we live and breathe and die by. If you can get the people and the process sorted, the tech will follow really, really comfortable. Mm-hmm. If you try and force the issue through the tech, what you're going to do is inhibit the productivity. Productivity is what makes that business work. Doesn't matter what you do, selling shoes to kids, mm-hmm. to insurance, to footballers, soccer players. They've all got a business. They've all got to do something to sell. But if you don't have the right people bringing in the right things to make the usability correct and the productivity correct, they're going to work around your security. And all your technical controls are going to do is ping, 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 ping. Everybody in the business is putting USB in, USB out, USB in, USB out. And it's like, right, okay, that's not the way to work. One of the things I would like to see is more hybrid CISOs, more who can talk the language of the red teamers. They can talk the language of the IT guys, but they can talk the language of the business. I've seen it plenty of times in my career. Those who can't, they're not giving the board the right answers. And usually people on boards, they've got their time's limited. Mm-hmm. They're very, very limited. And if they're not buying into the process, how can the rest of the team buy into the process? So on the flip side, I find with my awareness programs, they don't get to speak to me that often on an awareness program, because I don't want them feeling, oh my God, it's Pete again. Exactly. Waffling in my ears with my dulcet tones. So I want to give them enough information without feeling like I'm scaring them, but they can feel like they can come to me. They can talk to me. I am a conduit to those up there, I'm a conduit to those down there as well, to make sure all these things come together. And essentially, you'll get a better managed system.
Mm-hmm.
And the word system, is no longer about computers. The system is your P&T, people, process, tech. And probably for years, even when I talk to students and webinars, if you work on the productivity, that breeds security. Security does not breed productivity, because people go against it. And I think that's really, really, really important. I'm your friend. I'm on your side. I am literally the 6'5" safety blanket for you.
Mm-hmm.
I am here to look after all X amount of people, to say you've got a job to come into tomorrow.
Perfect.
And if there's a breach, somebody's done something far cleverer than I, but I've also got enough things in place that I can get on it faster than you can blink. And if I'm following the incident response process, I'm dealing with containment as quick as I can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm focusing on eradication, but I'm also doing my analysis stages. But at no point I'm compromising on the quality, and at no point I'm compromising on the productivity of that business, because I've got enough things in place to make sure you can work, and you can work.
You mentioned at some point, Peter, that you work as a ISO 27001 auditor for quite some time in your life, right? Did you feel any difference between, for example, the expectations that we had last year and after this pandemic right now, the need for the companies to get certified for any sort of reason?
I think the big shift, there's a couple of things that were happening before 2020 that I saw, but I'll go backwards. So the big shift this year was, if I could see it, I'm in control of it. I think that's what a lot of businesses will run. I can walk into an office, I can see people, I can see it was secure, I can see the front doors locked. I am happy.
Uh-huh.
Now those same people are going, sat at home, they could be playing their Xbox, they could be watching daytime trashy TV. I don't know if they're out walking the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I know that my laptop I've just lent them is okay? Oh my word, I'm having to roll out 300 laptops. Oh no, the supplier can only give me 200.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that control is just, well, what can help me control that? Well, actually, 27,001 is very, very good for that. But there's a big difference between how you embed that. So going backwards, one of the big things I saw, there was a shift, and there's a first hand and a third hand story I can tell you here. First hand, I found I was going into very complex environments.
Mm-hmm.
I very much started feeling like I was getting like treated. I mean this in the nicest possible sense. I felt like I was the dog. I was a police dog, right? If the environment was very, very complex and a traditional auditor couldn't do it, they throw me in, which I quite enjoyed actually. They've got, when these environments were getting scoped out, they'll be, low complexity because they've got no server and they've got 10 desktops. You get in there and they've gone, yeah, but they've got 4 AWS regions, a backup Google Cloud platform, and this, that, and the other, and they're running all these VPCs and da-da-da-da-da. And then everybody goes very glassy-eyed because they can't see it, they can't control it. Well, you can control it, as we all know, but not in the same context. So the shift basically came and says, well, how does 27001 control these unwieldy beasts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, they're not that unwieldy, because Google, Amazon, Microsoft all do quite a damn good job.
Mm-hmm.
They do a fantastic job on them, but the responsibility is still yours. I had a very interesting conversation with a privacy guy. He's a good friend of mine. He'll know who he is when he watches this, where he thinks that the onus is on the cloud provider. And I said, no, the cloud provider keeps the lights on. It's up to you what you do with the box.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you want to keep a misconfigured thing in the box, if you want to put a bomb in there, you're to blame. Mm-hmm. Well, they should know about it. Sure, that's a breach of the privacy then, isn't it? And we've had it to and fro for a while. But the third hand story was, I know a UK auditor went over to the US, and he was observed by a member of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually turned around and says, the way we looked at complex environments from our standpoint, because of how we look at things, we actually did it a lot more with a fine tooth comb than some of the US auditors did. But it's the same standard.
Uh-huh.
So why are we doing it one way and you guys are doing another? I'm not saying that every auditor is like that, but there's a shift. There's more technical auditors coming in, and those less technical auditors are going out because they might be doing 27,001, but actually their bread and butter is 9,001 quality, 14,001 health and safety,
Uh-huh.
and they've done 27,001 because it was okay in 2013 to do that. It was okay. It was easy. But actually, the standard's not changed, but the world's changed. We're a lot more savvy on, GDPR changed a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Privacy Shield changed a lot of things. How we deal with technical controls, if cloud in 2013 is a hell of a lot different to what cloud is now.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding data centers, understanding responsibility and accountability has changed. Why? Because there's a lot more of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability of if something goes wrong. So actually, yeah, you talk about the loss of jobs for CISO, but the accountability when you talk about loss of jobs or loss of clients because you've got in the news,
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously going to have a massive effect. So, I mean, yeah, 27,001's due a reboot, for want of a better expression. But actually, when you look at those 117 controls, they're still relevant.
When talking about competitive advantage, I'm not talking only against their competitors, but for you to be a CISO, that you can say to your board, we are following global standards and we are following all the best practices. This is a good thing also to give your board, to give the executives that the CISO structure is working on a good way.
Well, certainly, and there's a lot to be said about supporting frameworks as well. Use your wall analogy. The wall used to be a decent height. It's no longer that decent height now because people got clever. They've got ladders. They can see over it. So when you look at the NIST, you've got NIST controls. You can now map to 27,001. The MITRE ATT&CK framework can map back to 27,001. So I'm not saying people were guessing before, but if you wanted to make it stronger, wanted like the international support, you've got tried and tested frameworks. I mean, the MITRE ATT&CK framework is a very popular one now. So if you're looking at, okay, I've recognized this as a risk, I recognize I need to put these controls in place. What do I do about it? 27,002 will give you the guidelines, but then I look at NIST, I'll look at MITRE, I'll look at the other frameworks and go, actually, they've told me exactly what I need to do. They've told me exactly what I need to do with my firewall, or they've told me exactly how I need to be managing my malware, and anti-malware. I've taken advice from, so in the UK, we would take example from the NCSC, so the National Cybersecurity Centre, who have said, users can't turn off AV, you got your 8 signature updates, you're using behavior modeling, that's. Or, the whole thing of anti-malware, we use signatures probably 5 years ago. It's all changed. As we know now, signatures is only a wee tiny part of it now. Still important, still have a say. But the standard's still okay. The controls are still okay. So going back to your original question about what changes have we seen, it's down to the assessors. It's down to the assessors to push it. I sit down with the people about to be audited. I say, what do you want from me? How hard do you want it? How hard can I push it? And actually, I pretty much all of them will say, once I've told them my background and I've said, I'm from forensics, I'm done incident response, I will push your management system really hard, particularly Annex 12, 13, 16, 17. Look at your legal requirements, because whilst fitting in with what the requirements say, I can fall back on experience of dealing with law enforcement, actual reality of what happens with breaches. There's no guesswork. I sat on a course actually beginning of this year, and one of the chaps turned around and went, "Has anybody actually seen a data breach?"
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of us in the room just looked at each other and went, why are you here, sort of thing. Obviously, everybody's got to start from somewhere, but there's also an element of, data breaches happen, and if you're not getting exposure to that and understanding, reading the forums, reading, social media posts, finding out about actual breaches and understanding how breaches happen, you don't have to be a victim of it. But to ask a question if you've ever actually seen a real one worries me.
One last message that you'd like to share here in this channel?
Yeah, and I suppose the main thing is find out those soft skills for the industry. Find out where you fit in with things. I've just set up a new social account to help people get in the industry called the Cyber Badger. It's me having a little bit of a joke with the industry because I'm getting old. So I thought I'd take the mickey a little bit. But yeah, follow me, and I'm going to be talking about stuff. You don't have to be a geek to get in this industry. That's what I'll say. You don't have to be a geek to get in this industry. Get your head above the parapet and find out this wonderful world that we work in. It's not all about computers.